Hello, you are welcome back to Unit 3, Session 3 of this course. In the last session, we looked at three types of simple epithelial tissue, and in this session, we shall continue our discussion by describing three other specialized epithelial tissues. This session will therefore end with a summary of the general functions of epithelial tissues. By the end of this session, you should be able to describe a glandular epithelium and also state why stratified squamous epithelium is also referred to as compound epithelium, and also identify three organs of the human body where stratified squamous epithelium can be found, and also describe a pseudostratified columnar epithelium, and then finally state the role performed by transitional epithelial tissue. The first one we'll be looking at is glandular epithelium. And glandular epithelium are columnar and cuboidal epithelium that have globular cells, and these are collectively referred to as glandular epithelium. And these columnar and cuboidal epithelium, the cells are specialized as gland cells, and so they are able to synthesize and secrete substances which include enzymes, hormones, milk, mucus, sweat, wax, and saliva. So figure 19 shows a representative diagram of glandular epithelium. Based on specialization, epithelial cells could also be classified as stratified squamous epithelium, in that they occur at parts of the body where there is much wear and tear. And also, these cells or this epithelium are composed of several layers of cells and are sometimes referred to as compound epithelium, and it's because they are made up of several layers of cells as shown in figure 20. So the top or the upper cells are flat and scaly, and in that it may or may not be keratinized, and the keratinized is as a result of the presence of tough resistant protein called keratin. For instance, the mammalian skin is an example of dry keratinized stratified epithelium. An example of unkeratinized stratified epithelium is found in the lining of the mouth cavity. And these cells that makes up this kind of tissue are able to regenerate rapidly and undergo cell division. So the new cells that are formed are pushed outward, that replaces those that are shed off. And this type of tissue also occurs in the lining of the esophagus, anus, and vagina. So far from our discussion, there are exceptions to the three shapes and the two different arrangements of layering that we've looked at. That's layering of epithelial tissues. And the next one that we'll be looking at is pseudostratified columnar epithelium. And these ones are exception to the already discussed epithelial tissues, in that for pseudostratified columnar epithelium, they are made up of one layer of cells, and the cells are bent and twisted to make it appear stratified. And also, we could have some of these cells or this tissue have cilia on the surfaces of the cells, and so these ones are referred to as pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium, and they are able to form a mucous membrane that lines the nasal passages of many vertebrates. And figure 21 is a representative diagram of pseudostratified squamous epithelium, which indicates the cells looking like a columnar epithelium cells. However, the cells are bent and twisted, and they appear as stratified in nature. Another exception to cell shape and arrangement is a tissue referred to as transitional epithelial tissue, and this implies that these cells that makes up the tissue are able to transition from one shape to another where necessary, and the cells are elastic and are able to swell or contract and change shape when necessary. And the tissue that is found in the bladder are example of the transitional epithelial tissues. So some of these epithelial tissues are found in the bladder. And when the bladder is empty, the transitional cells look like cuboidal in shape, but when they are full, the urine is able to stretch the bladder walls, causing the cuboidal cells to become flat or squamous in shape. Also, there is a layer of the basement membrane that holds this epithelium to deeper tissues. Now let's have a look at the general functions of epithelial tissue. The first one is that some epithelial tissues are able to provide protection. For instance, the human skin epithelial tissues are able to provide protection to the underlying tissues from mechanical injury and from chemicals that are harmful, and also from bacterial invasion. They also help to prevent excessive loss of water. Also, some epithelial cells that are specialized are able to receive sensory stimulus, and so they function in sensation. And the specialized epithelial tissue contains sensory nerve endings. An example is found in the skin, the eyes, ears, nose, and also on the tongue. Another function of epithelial tissue is that some are involved in absorption. So certain epithelial cells that lines the small intestine are able to absorb nutrients from digestion of food. Some are also involved in excretion, in that some epithelial tissues in the kidney excrete waste products from the body and ensure reabsorption of the needed materials from urine as well. Also, the sweat is also excreted from the body by epithelial cells in the sweat gland. They are also involved in excretion. Some epithelial tissues are also involved in secretion, and the epithelial tissues found in glands are specialized to secrete specific chemical substances, which include enzyme, hormones, saliva, and some lubricating fluids. Another function of epithelial tissue is that they are involved in diffusion, in that some simple epithelium promotes the diffusion of gases, liquids, and nutrients. And because they form such a thin lining, they are ideal for the diffusion of gases. An example is the walls of capillaries and lungs. Another function of epithelial tissues is that some are involved in cleaning. Those ciliated epithelium helps in removing dust particles and foreign bodies which enter the air passage. An example is the nose and then the trachea. Another function of epithelial tissue is that some are involved in the reduction of friction, in that the smooth, tightly interlocking epithelial cells that line the entire circulatory system helps to reduce friction between the blood and the walls of the blood vessel. This brings us to the end of this session. Under this session, we learned about specialized epithelial tissues and also looked at glandular epithelium, which is a specialized epithelial tissue. We got to know that they are able to secrete substances such as enzymes, hormones, mucus, milk, sweat, wax, and saliva. And we also looked at stratified squamous epithelia, which was known to occur at sites where there is much abrasion. Also, the transitional epithelial tissue was looked at, and we also looked at the tissue that is elastic and expand and contract as it happens in the urinary bladder, it being transitional epithelial tissue.